Welcome back to the LeaderLink podcast. This is your host, Charles Heasley. And today I wanted to talk about a problem that organizations are dealing with, pretty much regardless of sector. And that is the fact that managers are leaving at a pretty alarming rate, meaning that, filling those gaps is an urgent task. I think I read somewhere that the manager turnover rate is about 20%. They're citing these people are eligible to retire, able to retire, and the job itself is burning them out. And there's a lot of reasons for this burnout, but this is a problem for organizations because most organizations have not developed a leadership pipeline. In order to prepare a future generation of leaders, not only do you need intentional development efforts, but you need mentoring efforts. You need that institutional knowledge, or some like to call it tribal knowledge, get passed down from one to the next. And most organizations just don't have a clear succession plan. They don't have a leadership pipeline plan. And so really, I think that fact makes the need for leadership development relevant now more than ever. It's not the only factor. We'll talk about some of the others, but when somebody promotes into a position of leadership, especially when they're a good individual contributor, and we don't teach them any skills about leadership, which are totally different skills. The organization is essentially taking a big risk. They're betting on whether or not that new leader can motivate people, whether they can handle the pressure, whether they can handle the organizational politics, whether they can get the work done through the front line, get work done through others, whether they can keep morale high, whether they can keep engagement high, turnover minimized. And so it's a risk. When you promote somebody based on technical skill, and research says that's about 82% of the people who get promoted are promoted for technical skill, not leadership ability. That's a big number, and that's a risk. And when you fail to intentionally develop that leader, you magnify the risk. You're basically doubling down on the bet you took and just hoping that they figure it out. Now, let me remind you that the managers who are leaving en masse right now, they're leaving due to burnout. So I can almost guarantee you that when you don't provide the new leader with any skills or direction, that burnout is not far off. And, it's interesting. Gallup, one of the most fascinating statistics that I've seen from Gallup is that 50% of the workforce right now is looking for another job, or they're at least open to the idea of another job. I bet you they're looking for other jobs on your work computers right now. But they said that 50% of the workforce is stressed. So according to those odds, who are the 50% in your organization who are stressed? Now, that's just talking about the frontline employee. But the interesting statistic to me is that 54% of managers, now it's not that much more, but it's basically saying that more managers than employees are stressed. Part of this, I'm guessing, has to do with the fact that nobody told them how to be a leader. And remember, 82% of the people who are promoted from technical to doer to leader, that is because of technical skill. They were a good salesperson. They were a good individual contributor. They were a good engineer. They were good, whatever the case is. Let's make them a leader, and let's not give them any tools, and hope they figure it out. I remember that when I was promoted to sergeant, one day I had my sleeve was what we call slick sleeve. There was nothing on it, and the next day I had sergeant stripes and a gold badge. And the message to me was, "Good luck. Go get them. Don't let us down." What? Like, you're going to put me in charge of 8 to 11 people, depending on which sector I'm in, and there's no development. But that is not unusual for law enforcement or my organization. That happens in all industries. And that's a problem because they take a risk. When they promote you, they take a risk, and failing to develop that person just magnifies the risk. So here's some of the reasons why I think leadership development is needed now more than ever. First of all, we have managers leaving at significant rates. We've got a lack of a leadership pipeline. But here's some other critical reasons. Number one, we're still promoting people based on technical skill, which I don't necessarily say is a complete problem, because who else are you going to promote? There are certain leadership positions that do need an understanding of what the job entails. If you're leading a team of salespeople, it probably wouldn't hurt for you to know how to sell, because then as a leader, you can coach them on it. You can help them become better salespeople. But the problem exists where if 82% of the people that get promoted are promoted for technical skill, and we don't do anything to address the leadership skill, they're different skill sets. Again, we're magnifying that risk of the promotion. So, I'm not necessarily saying it's a problem to promote somebody for technical skill reasons, but if we don't fill in the gap on those leadership skills, then that can be a real problem. Second mistake I see, or the second issue I see rather, is if you make a mistake as an individual contributor, the frontline worker. It could be expensive. It could be, could cost us time. There could be issues with it, but most likely it is just the one. It's a limited fallout. If you make a mistake as a leader, it is amplified because most leaders supervise more than one person, and those mistakes can lead to broader problems that affect the team, that affect the culture, that affect the organization as a whole. The mistakes you make as a leader can affect morale, it can affect performance. And remember, if most people are getting promoted for technical skill, not leadership skill, one of the keys about being a leader is that you are leading people. And leading people is hard because they're all different. They see the world differently than you do. They don't know what's in your brain. And when we fail to give them communication, expectations, feedback, when we fail to understand that we are an imperfect human leading another imperfect human, that can have serious issues with morale and performance and really, quite frankly, eventually turnover. The third reason that I think leadership development is needed now more than ever is because our employees expect more now than they ever have, or at least they're willing to voice it more. Now, remember, we have multiple generations in the workforce, and some generations it was common practice to not complain, to just do what you're told and not say anything. It's not that these people didn't want more information, or they didn't want to say their piece, or they didn't want to disagree. They just grew up in an environment where it was be quiet and do your job, and be thankful that we're even allowing you to do that. The things that's changed. A lot of employees nowadays are not willing to just do what I say to do because that's the way we've always done it. That's not a good a good answer for them. And when I say that employees expect more, I'm not just saying that they want benefits and they want to work from home. It's like, yeah, they want that stuff too, but they increasingly want to be treated like people, kind of like our last topic. So for these the new generation in the workforce, that they need clarity. They want to know exactly what success looks like. What is it that you expect as my boss? And I'll tell you that in the work that I've done with leaders, most leaders have never sat down to actually craft what are the expectations that I have for each person on my team. And when they don't craft it, that person doesn't. They have no idea what success looks like. So clarity is essential. They need feedback. They want to know, am I doing a good job? Where can I improve? How can you let me know how this impacts the organization, or what is the impact, like the work that I do, how is it actually making a difference? Employees expect trust. They want to go to a workplace where they feel trusted, they trust their leaders, and on the surface level that you say, yeah, well, that, obviously, but unfortunately, many organizations don't have that kind of culture. There's a culture of distrust. They don't necessarily trust their senior leaders, and you have new leaders who have never been taught how to do it, and they're kind of put in this difficult position. I need to lead my team, take the direction from my middle manager. You've got middle managers who are caught in the middle. They basically have to allow information to flow both ways. A lot of middle managers are stressed out because they don't fully understand the purpose of their role. Some middle managers are stressed out because as layoffs have occurred, or downsizing, they will tend to move leadership responsibilities upward. So the middle manager is now responsible for the frontline and middle leadership levels, which is stressful. And if that employee doesn't believe that every level of management has their back on something, then how is it possible that we can expect that they trust our organization? Employees nowadays, they expect more development. They want to be trained. They want to learn new skills. A lot of people give the new generation a hard time for, going out and earning the MBA and expecting to be the CEO of the company the next day. I agree, that's ridiculous, but they want those development opportunities because someday we will need a new CEO. Someday we will need people in those positions. So, they're craving that. I think more than anything, though, when we talk about employees expecting more, they want to know that what they do has purpose. And if they feel like they work for an organization where their work matters, it leads to a greater good of some sort. That's essential. If employees don't feel that way, I think now more than ever, they're willing to move on to another company where they believe in the purpose. They believe their work contributes to that purpose. And so why does this matter for leadership development? Well, as a leader, it's essential to communicate the vision, and it's essential, along with the clarity and the feedback and the trust, to be able to explain to people how their work matters and how it fits into the overall picture. There are many reasons why I think leadership development is critical now more than ever, but we'll close on this point. The work environment is more complex than ever. Again, like I said, there's not one, not two, not three, but there's multiple generations in the workforce. And, every generation has their strengths, but every generation also has their stereotypes. And I see this more than ever. People complain about millennials, people complain about Gen Z. And yeah, sure, there's some people who fit those stereotypes, but I've also seen a lot of people in those generations who are phenomenal workers who don't fit the mold. They want purpose, and they're willing to go out and work hard for it. And it's important that as a leader, you understand what matters to each generation, not to put them in a box based on their generation, but to understand what matters, and then to understand how to get to know each person as a person, because again, the people element is essential. The environment's more, there's so much change and uncertainty in our not only here in the States, but globally. And as a leader, you need to have the confidence to navigate those changes. And depending on your level in the organization, will impact what your responsibility is in that. But if your people are stressed about the uncertainty and all the change going on, and you are also stressed, it's only going to make things worse. If people see that you're calm and confident, and that you are ready to walk through whatever change and uncertainty might exist, the likelihood of them being willing to trust you and let you actually lead them through that is much higher. And then, I can't end this episode without talking about AI. AI is going to be doing so much different things for organizations. I know, we use it at Blue Lion Leadership for different reasons, but I think the way that information and technology is progressing, it's at a very fast rate, and so we need to develop leaders that can understand how to tap into the benefits of those tools, and also again help people navigate through change and uncertainty. Look, again, we can talk about this for days and days, episodes and episodes, but I just want to reiterate that if leaders are leaving at alarming rates, and if we're not establishing a pipeline of leaders to replace them, the crisis of leadership is only going to get worse. And so leadership development is essential now more than ever. There's plenty of resources out there. We are not the only resource, but I encourage you to look and see what might work for your organization. And just remember that the people who work for your company, they deserve great leaders.